The key was under the fake rock by the front door, exactly where Jessica said it would be. Third rock from the left, the one that looked too perfect among the desert landscaping of their Scottsdale home. It was Tuesday, October 8th, 11:30 in the morning, and I was about to walk into my brother-in-law's house to check on him, like Jessica had asked. "Just make sure Marcus is eating actual food and not living on takeout," she'd said before leaving for her week-long girls' trip to Napa Valley. You know how men get when they're left alone. I did know. But Marcus was different. Marcus was the responsible one, the financial planner who managed not just his and Jessica's money, but helped half the neighborhood with their retirement accounts. Marcus was organized, methodical, the kind of man who meal prepped on Sundays. Still, Jessica was my sister-in-law, and when family asks you to check on their spouse, you do it. The front door opened smoothly, and I stepped into the cool, air-conditioned silence. Everything looked normal until I noticed the smell. Not bad, exactly, but unfamiliar. Like vanilla and something floral I couldn't identify. Jessica didn't wear vanilla perfume. She was strictly a citrus person. Then I saw the wine glasses. Two of them, sitting on the granite countertop next to the sink. The lipstick stain on one of them was a deep red color that Jessica never wore. Jessica was a nude gloss kind of woman. I opened the dishwasher and found plates with the remnants of what looked like an intimate dinner. Two of everything. The kind of dinner you have when you're trying to impress someone, not the kind of meal a man eats alone. My hands were shaking as I closed the dishwasher. I should leave, go home, pretend I hadn't seen anything. But I couldn't stop myself from looking around more carefully. In the living room, the throw pillows were arranged differently than usual. Jessica was particular about her pillows, always perfectly positioned. These were casual, rumpled. The coffee table had water rings on it, something Jessica would never allow. I walked down the hallway toward the bedrooms. As I passed the guest room, I noticed the door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open and immediately wished I hadn't. The bed was unmade, sheets tangled. There were clothes on the floor, a woman's blouse that definitely wasn't Jessica's, lacy and red and expensive looking. A pair of high heels were kicked under the dresser. But it was what I saw on the nightstand that made my stomach drop completely. A prescription bottle with a woman's name on it. Monica Chun, take as needed for anxiety. The address was local, dated just 2 days ago. Monica Chun. I knew that name. Monica was Marcus's business partner at the financial planning firm. I'd met her at company events. She was younger than Jessica, probably early 30s, with glossy black hair and expensive clothes. I'd noticed the way she looked at Marcus during office parties, stood too close during conversations. Jessica had mentioned her occasionally. Marcus is working late again on the Chin account, or Monica thinks we should diversify our portfolio. Never with suspicion. Jessica trusted Marcus completely. We're trying to have children. That thought hit me like a physical blow. Jessica had been going through fertility treatments for 8 months. The stress, the hormones, the disappointment every month. She'd mentioned that she and Marcus hadn't been as intimate lately because everything had become so clinical, so scheduled. And while my sister-in-law was pumping her body full of hormones and hoping for a miracle, her husband was using their guest room to sleep with his business partner. I took a picture of the prescription bottle. Then I walked toward the front door, but something else caught my eye. Marcus's home office door was open, and I could see his computer screen was still on, displaying a banking website. The screen showed an account I'd never heard Marcus or Jessica mention. A savings account with a balance that made my knees weak. $847,000. Nearly $1 million in an account labeled M. Chun and M. Rodriguez Joint Investment Fund. Marcus's last name was Rodriguez. Monica's was Chun. They didn't just have a physical relationship. They had a financial one too. Marcus managed Jessica's finances. She'd always been happy to let him handle the money. She trusted him completely, never questioned his investment decisions, never asked to see statements. She had no idea how much money they had or where it was kept. And apparently, a significant portion of it was being kept in a joint account with his mistress. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "How's the weather in Phoenix? Tell Marcus I said hi and that I love him red heart." I stared at that message, at the heart emoji, at the casual trust. She was having the time of her life, probably laughing and taking pictures and not thinking about Marcus except to send loving messages. She had no idea that her husband was systematically betraying her in every possible way. I left the house quickly, my hands shaking so badly I could barely start my car. When I got home, David was outside watering our desert plants. "Becca, you look like you've seen a ghost." I told him everything. The wine glasses, the guest room, the prescription bottle, the joint bank account. David listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker.
Jesus, Becca.
"Are you sure about what you saw?" "I took a picture of the prescription bottle," I said, showing him my phone. "And I saw the bank account with my own eyes. Nearly $1 million, David. In a joint account with his business partner." "What are you supposed to do?" David asked. "I don't know. But she's going through fertility treatments, spending all that money on doctors while he's hiding nearly $1 million with another woman." That night, I barely slept. By morning, I'd made my decision. I couldn't tell Jessica over the phone while she was on vacation. But I also couldn't let her come home and continue living in ignorance. I was going to gather more evidence. Wednesday morning, I drove back to their house. Inside, the house had been cleaned. The wine glasses were gone. The dishes had been run through the dishwasher. The water rings had been wiped away. Someone had been trying to erase the evidence. But they'd missed a few things. In the guest room, the bed was made, but the sheets were different. Jessica had expensive, cream-colored sheets she'd special ordered. These were white with a different texture. Someone had changed the sheets but couldn't find exact replacements. More importantly, they'd forgotten about the prescription bottle in the nightstand drawer. It was still there, along with something new, a small velvet jewelry box. Inside was a diamond engagement ring. Probably 2 carats, absolutely beautiful. The kind that cost more than most people's cars. There was a card tucked under the ring. "For our new beginning. All my love, M." Marcus wasn't just having an affair with Monica. He was planning to leave Jessica for her. And he was financing their new life with money that belonged to his wife. I photographed everything, then looked for Marcus's filing cabinet. I remembered him saying he kept hard copies of everything in case the servers crashed. The cabinet was locked, but the key was taped under his desk drawer. Inside, I found folders with client names, tax documents, and in the very back, a folder labeled Personal Private. That folder contained evidence that would change everything. Bank statements showing regular transfers from Marcus and Jessica's joint accounts into the M. Chun and M. Rodriguez Fund. Not just the $847,000, but a pattern going back 2 years. He'd been systematically moving their money, small amounts at first, then larger sums. But it was worse than theft. I found insurance documents showing Marcus had taken out a life insurance policy on Jessica 6 months ago. A policy worth $2 million, with Marcus as sole beneficiary. Jessica had signed it, probably without reading it carefully, trusting Marcus to handle their finances as always. There were also medical records. Copies of Jessica's fertility treatment files, but these weren't for insurance. They were in a folder labeled Behavioral Patterns with handwritten notes in the margins. Notes like most emotionally unstable days, cycle days 12 to 16-inch, and least likely to question financial decisions during treatment weeks. Marcus had been studying my sister-in-law like a lab rat, documenting her vulnerability during fertility treatments, timing his financial manipulations for when she was least likely to notice. And then I found the document that made me physically sick. It was a draft of a suicide note, written in Jessica's handwriting. Except Jessica hadn't written it. There were practice sheets underneath, where someone had been copying her handwriting over and over. The note talked about the stress of fertility treatments, the depression from repeated failures, feeling like she was letting Marcus down. It was heartbreaking and convincing and completely fake. At the bottom was a business card for a private investigator with a handwritten note. Need complete background check on subject. Looking for evidence of mental instability, previous suicide attempts, anything that would support accidental death ruling. I sat there staring at those documents, trying to process what I was looking at. This wasn't just financial fraud. Marcus was planning to kill his wife. He'd been systematically stealing their money, documenting her emotional patterns, forging suicide notes in her handwriting, and researching ways to make her death look like suicide. And he'd taken out a $2 million life insurance policy. Jessica wasn't just being cheated on. She was in actual, physical danger. I photographed everything, put it back exactly as I'd found it, and was walking toward the front door when I heard a car in the driveway. Marcus was home. I ducked into the powder room and held my breath. Through the crack under the door, I could see his feet as he walked past, talking on the phone. "No, she won't be back until Sunday," he was saying. "We have plenty of time to finalize everything." He walked into his office, and I heard his chair creak. "Monica, I know you're nervous, but we've planned this perfectly. Jessica trusts me completely. She signs whatever I put in front of her. And with her medical history of depression during fertility treatments, no one will question it when she doesn't wake up one morning." I felt like I was going to vomit. Marcus was literally planning to murder Jessica. The private investigator confirmed there's no family history of suicide, which works in our favor. It'll look like the fertility treatments pushed her over the edge. I heard him opening desk drawers. "Once the insurance pays out, we'll have almost $3 million to start fresh in California.
Just stick to the plan.
I'll handle everything on Sunday night when she gets back from Napa." Sunday night. Jessica was coming home Sunday evening, and Marcus was planning to kill her that same night. I had less than 4 days to save my sister-in-law's life. Marcus was wrapping up the conversation. I slipped out of the powder room and through the front door as quietly as possible. As I drove away, I saw Monica's white BMW turning into the driveway behind me. I drove straight to the Phoenix Police Department. Detective Sarah Mora took my statement, studying each photograph on my phone carefully. "This is comprehensive," she said. "Are you absolutely certain about what you overheard?" "I'm sure. Marcus is planning to kill Jessica on Sunday night. He said he would handle everything when she got back." "Here's what we're going to do," Detective Mora said. "We need to verify these financial records and get your sister-in-law somewhere safe without alerting Marcus. We'll set up surveillance and try to catch him attempting to carry out this plan." "Should I call Jessica?" "Not yet. If Marcus suspects we know, he might destroy evidence or change his plan. We need him to believe everything is proceeding normally." The next few days passed in a blur of police activity. They confirmed the joint bank account and life insurance policy. They verified that the house deed had been changed to include Monica's name. The private investigator agreed to cooperate in exchange for immunity. "We got enough to arrest him now," Detective Mora told me Friday. "But we want to catch him in the act. It'll make the case stronger." Sunday came. At 3 p.m., Detective Mora called. "We have Jessica. We met her at the airport and explained the situation. She's devastated but safe, and she's agreed to cooperate." The plan was set. An undercover officer resembling Jessica would enter the house at the usual time. Marcus would be under surveillance, and the moment he made any move to harm who he thought was Jessica, police would intervene. I parked several blocks away where I could see their street. I could see unmarked police cars stationed around the neighborhood. At 8:47 p.m., a taxi pulled up. The undercover officer got out with a suitcase and walked to the front door. From my distance, the resemblance was convincing. About 20 minutes later, Monica's BMW pulled up. She parked on the street and let herself in with her own key. This was it. This was when they were planning to kill who they thought was Jessica. It felt like hours, but was probably 10 minutes before police cars converged on the house from 3 directions. The front door opened, and Marcus was let out in handcuffs, looking around frantically, trying to figure out how police had known to be there. Monica was also brought out in handcuffs, crying, her perfect appearance disheveled.
My phone rang. Detective Mora.
"We got them." Marcus had prepared a syringe with a lethal dose of fertility hormones mixed with sedative. The plan was to inject Jessica while she slept and make it look like accidental overdose. And Monica? She was there to help stage the scene and provide an alibi. They had it all worked out. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. Marcus was convicted of attempted murder, insurance fraud, and conspiracy. He was sentenced to 25 years to life. Monica got 15 years. But that wasn't the end. Jessica had to rebuild her entire life. She'd lost not just her husband, but her sense of trust. She moved out of the Scottsdale house, sold her share of the business, and started over with a small graphic design studio. The hardest part was learning to manage her own finances for the first time in 12 years. But she was stronger than she'd realized. With help from a new financial advisor, a woman she'd researched carefully, Jessica learned to take control of her own money and future. 6 months after the trial, she made a decision that surprised everyone. She decided to continue fertility treatments as a single woman. "I realized that wanting a baby was never about Marcus," she told me. "It was about me, about the life I wanted to build." A year later, Jessica gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She named her Hope. I was in the delivery room when Hope was born. Watching Jessica hold her daughter, seeing the pure joy on her face, I thought about how different things could have been if I hadn't found that prescription bottle. Jessica still thanks me for being nosy at exactly the right time. But I don't think I was being nosy. I think I was being careful, observant, protective of someone I loved. 2 years after the trial, I got another call from Detective Mora, now working as a private investigator. "Rebecca, I need to tell you something about the Marcus Rodriguez case. Marcus and Monica weren't the only ones involved. We found evidence they were part of a larger network, people who target wealthy couples where one spouse controls all the finances." My stomach dropped. "How many people?" "We've identified at least 12 cases across 3 states over 5 years. Always the same pattern. A financial planner gets close to a wealthy couple, isolates the spouse who isn't involved in money management, then systematically steals their assets while planning to eliminate the inconvenient spouse." Jessica wasn't their first victim.
No.
But she was supposed to be their biggest. The other cases involved smaller amounts, and they usually just divorced their targets and disappeared. Jessica was different because of the life insurance policy. That was a new escalation. The FBI had taken over the investigation and been quietly building cases against other network members. Financial advisors, insurance agents, private investigators, even lawyers who specialized in helping clients hide assets from spouses. 3 months later, the FBI arrested 14 people across 3 states in Operation Widowmaker. Jessica's story was at the center of the national news coverage. She was invited to appear on television programs to talk about financial abuse and how women can protect themselves. Watching her speak confidently on national TV was incredible. This was the same woman who 2 years earlier couldn't tell you what bank her mortgage was through. A year later, Jessica met someone new. His name was David, yes, same as my husband, and he ran a nonprofit providing financial literacy training. They met at one of Jessica's speaking engagements. David was the opposite of Marcus in every way that mattered. He was transparent about his finances, included Jessica in every decision, actively encouraged her independence. When they got serious, he suggested they each maintain separate financial advisors. "After what you went through," he told her, "I want you to always know that you're choosing to be with me, not that you have to be with me." They've been married for 6 months now. Their relationship is built on mutual respect and transparency that Jessica never had with Marcus. As for Marcus and Monica, they're both still in prison. Marcus has tried to appeal twice, unsuccessfully. Monica was denied parole. Neither has shown remorse, both maintaining they were just trying to build a life together. The other Widowmaker network members received sentences from 5 to 20 years. The FBI estimates the network stole over $50 million from victims over 5 years. But for me, the most important outcome was simpler. Jessica is alive, Hope is healthy, and our family is still intact. I think about that October day when I first walked into their house with that fake key. If I'd just done what Jessica asked, checked that Marcus was eating and left, everything would have been different. Jessica would have come home Sunday night, happy and relaxed. Marcus would have injected her with that fatal dose while she slept. She would have been found dead the next morning, apparently having overdosed during an emotional breakdown. With Marcus's documentation of Jessica's emotional instability and the forged suicide note, police probably would have ruled it accidental death or suicide. Marcus would have collected $2 million in insurance money, sold the house, and started a new life in California with nearly $3 million in stolen money. Instead, Jessica is raising her daughter as a strong, independent single mother. She's built a successful business, advocates for other women, and found love again with someone who respects her. Hope is now 3 years old, smart and funny and adored by everyone. She's growing up in a house where she'll learn that women can be financially independent and strong. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd been less observant that day, if I'd overlooked the wine glasses or ignored the unfamiliar perfume. Jessica still sends me a card every October 8th. It always says, "Thank you for paying attention." But the real lesson isn't about wine glasses or prescription bottles. It's about trusting your instincts when something feels wrong, even when you can't articulate exactly what it is. Women are taught to doubt themselves, to assume they're being paranoid when they notice things that don't add up. We're taught to be polite, to mind our own business, to trust that people have good intentions. But sometimes, trusting your instincts and asking uncomfortable questions can literally save someone's life. Jessica teaches this in her workshops now. She tells women to trust that inner voice that says something isn't right. She encourages them to ask questions about their finances, to read every document before signing, to maintain some independence even in loving relationships. Know where your money is. Know what you're signing. Know what insurance policies exist in your name. Because people who love you will want you to know these things, and people who don't love you will try to keep you in the dark. It's about being an active participant in your own life instead of a passive recipient of other people's decisions. I'm proud to be Jessica's sister-in-law, and I'm proud to be the kind of person who notices when wine glasses don't belong or when perfume smells wrong. Because sometimes being observant isn't being nosy. Sometimes it's being a lifesaver.